Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Oh, good. Be seated, please. Parameshwara. Good. Good. Very good. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavidyan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Good. Welcome back. We continue our study of chapter 13. Oh, I forgot to. There we go. Welcome to you all, and welcome also to our many students watching these classes online. We'll continue our study of chapter 13 today. Let's see, we'll start chanting with verse 12. And we'll give a proper introduction and pick up the thread. Verse 12, please. Manish? Yes. Yeah, verse 12, please. Thank you. Okay, and as always, as I'm chanting, read the translation and then repeat after me. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam, adhyatma jnana nityatvam, tattva jnanartha darshanam, tattva jnanartha darshanam, etad jnanamiti proktam, etad jnanamiti proktam, ajnanam yaratonyatha, Ajnanam yaratonyatha Jneyam yattat pravakshyami Jneyam yattat pravakshyami Yadnyatva Yadnyatva Anarimat param brahma Anarimat param brahma Nasat Tanna saruchyate, na sattanna saruchyate, sarvatah paniparam tata, sarvatah paniparam tata, sarvatokshishiro mukham, sarvatokshishiro mukham, sarvatah shrutimaloke, sarvatah shrutimaloke, Sarvamavritya tishtati, sarvamavritya tishtati, sarvendriya guna bhasam, sarvendriya guna bhasam, sarvendriya vivarjitam, sarvendriya vivarjitam, asaktam sarvabhrutchaiva, asaktam sarvabhrutchaiva, nirgunam guna bhoktracha, nirgunam guna bhoktracha, bahirantascha bhutanam, bahirantascha bhutanam, acharam charamevacha, acharam charam Sukshmatvatara vijneyam, Sukshmatvatara vijneyam, Durastham chantike chatata, Durastham chantike chatata, Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu, Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu, Vibhaktamiva cha sthitam, Vibhaktamiva chastitam bhuta bhartra chatagnyayam bhutra bhartra chatagnyayam grasishnu prabha vishnu cha Grasishnu Prabha Vishnu Cha. Very good. We'll go back to verse 12 and pick up the thread. So at the beginning of this chapter, you remember Arjuna asked, what is Jnayam and what is Jnanam? What is Jnayam, to be known, Brahman, which we'll see later in this class, and what is Jnanam, knowledge, the means to reach the Jnayam. And in this context, Sri Krishna gave as Jnayam, the means to reach Brahman, he gave a list of 20 values, 20 qualities, which are meant to be cultivated. And just to reflect briefly on something we've discussed at some length, we're seeking an extraordinary kind of knowledge here. And for an extraordinary kind of knowledge, we're going to require an extraordinary kind of preparation. And that's the extraordinary preparation that Sri Krishna gives in this list of 20 values. We've already spent 2 classes going over that list. We have just the final 2. Excuse me. Sorry. The final 2 of those 20 verses come in verse 12, and we'll pick up the thread there. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam, adhyatma jnana nityatvam, tattva jnanartha darshanam, tattva jnanartha darshanam, etad jnanamiti proktam, etad jnanamiti proktam, ajnanam yaratonyatha, ajnanam yaratonyatha. So here we have the 19th and 20th of Sri Krishna's list of 20 values. These values or qualities are meant to prepare us for gaining enlightenment. Here the 19th quality is adhyatma jnana nityatvam. Nityatvam, here the nitya, means eternal. Here it means steadiness, uninterrupted commitment, nityatvam. Commitment to what? Adhyatma jnana. Adhyatma, with regard to one's true self. Adhyatma becomes adhyatma. Adhyatma jnana, knowledge of one's true self. So uninterrupted commitment to gaining knowledge of one's own true self. And how else? Remember when you were in college, it took quite a commitment to fulfill all the requirements. I remember doing just hours and hours and hours of study each day to keep up with the classes. So you're going to see that kind of commitment is required, in my case, for an undergraduate degree in engineering, which is not a big deal at all, but still required a tremendous commitment. And here we're talking about a goal which is infinitely beyond an undergraduate degree in engineering, enlightenment. So what kind of commitment would be required in this case? If a strong commitment is required to get an undergraduate degree, you get the idea that to gain this adhyatma jnana, this spiritual knowledge, this knowledge of your true self, takes a tremendous commitment. Fortunately, we all have the ability to commit ourselves according to what we find valuable in life. So when I was a young man, I considered getting that degree extremely important, valuable. It was my ticket to a good career. And so since I had so much value in getting that degree, I was intensely committed to fulfilling the requirements. That's the key. If you don't have the commitment, and you've all experienced this, you're not committed to something, and you find you're not very enthusiastic about doing it, you're not very committed to doing something if you don't have much value for it. Good example would be exercise. If you don't have enough value for exercise, you won't do it. But when your doctor threatens you and says, you're going to take 10 years off your life if you don't exercise, then when you see the value, then the commitment comes. And this teaching is based on that. When you see the value of these teachings, then the commitment naturally follows. Which is why there's quite a bit of emphasis in talking about the value of these teachings, as we did in our meditation session. And the final of the 20 values, Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam. This is the culmination. The darshana, the seeing of the artha, of the meaning, which is jnana, knowledge of tattva, reality. This is a word that means basically enlightenment, discovering the tattva, the truth of who you actually are. Removing that so-called veil of ignorance to discover that so-called inner divinity. To remove ignorance and discover that you indeed are Satchidananda Atma, unchanging, boundaryless consciousness, utterly unaffected by the problems of the body, problems of the mind, problems of the world around you. This discovery is Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam. This is the end of the road. This is enlightenment. And it might seem strange to make enlightenment one of the 20 values. And the point is that when you have sufficiently embraced the other 19 values, this one comes, and two factors. When you have sufficiently inculcated is the right word. When you have sufficiently cultivated is a better word. When you have cultivated the other 19 values, and when you have access to proper teachings, the requirements are met. And this tattva jnana comes effortlessly. I remember as a young student, if I prepared for classes, then it was not, and especially if I prepared for examinations, it was effortless. And if I didn't prepare, it was impossible. And that's a good example here. If you are fully prepared, if you have really cultivated all of these values, then gaining this wisdom is effortless. On the other hand, if you have not made any effort to cultivate these values, gaining this knowledge is not difficult, impossible. But the fact is, most people are in between those two extremes, not fully endowed with these qualities, but rather partially endowed with these qualities. That's okay. And that's basically how it works. In fact, I have to share with you, this is a traditional metaphor, a very helpful metaphor that shows how these values mature in your mind and heart and eventually culminate in enlightenment. The metaphor this is a metaphor for becoming prepared. Becoming prepared is like having dried sticks ready to start a fire. If you want to start a fire and you have a pile of dried sticks, then you put a match to the dried sticks and you have a fire. Suppose you have wet sticks. That the wet sticks represents lack of preparation. So here's what happens. You have a pile of wet sticks, you put a match to it. What happens? Nothing. You put another match to that pile of sticks. Still doesn't light. And a third, and a fourth, and a fifth. By the way, in this metaphor, that match, just like our meditation session discussion, the light of knowledge. So this is the wet sticks represents an unprepared or partially prepared student attending a class like this one. So you put the pile of wet sticks, you put a match, nothing happens. You come to this class partially prepared, and nothing much. Something happens, but you don't leave the room enlightened. That's the point. But watch what happens. You light another match and light another match and another match, and the wood doesn't catch fire, but with each match, the wood dries out a little bit. What does that represent? Each class you attend, even though you may not leave the room enlightened, you do gain some inner maturity. Your preparedness increases with each and every class, even though you don't walk out the door enlightened. When after enough matches are lit, when that wood is sufficiently dry, does the wood have to be perfectly dry? No. When the wood is sufficiently dry, all it takes is one match. You see? So when your own sadhana, spiritual practice, has led you to become sufficiently prepared, all it takes, one match means one class. You hear what you need to hear, and it clicks. So this is a metaphor. And what it shows is there's no reason to be concerned. Oh, I don't have all those qualities. When will I ever get enlightened? That's not how it works. It's a non-linear process. It's not like step A, get prepared. Step B, go to class and get enlightened. That's very linear. It doesn't work like that. So each time we meet, you are exposed to these teachings again and again and again. It's like lighting one match after another. There's a cumulative effect of all of these teachings. We are gradually lifted to a state of sufficient preparation, and eventually the fire of knowledge ignites and burns away all the ignorance. Which is why, by the way, that there's a rule for the teacher, and the rule for the teacher: be patient. keep lighting those matches. Okay. Etadnya. So after now, the 20th value has been given, and in the second half of the verse, etadnyanam. This is the jnanam, knowledge. And that's what Arjuna had asked about at the beginning of the chapter. Etad jnanam, this is the knowledge. Iti proktam, thus it has been taught to you, Arjuna. These are the 20 values that are essential to prepare you for knowledge of Brahman. Yat ataha, in the middle of the last line, anything Yat ataha, yat anyatha. Just to see how the best way to take the Sanskrit. Yad ataha anyatha. Ataha. Anyatha and ataha almost have the same meaning here. Something different. Yat. That which is different. That which is, and different than what? That which is otherwise. Now, that's a good translation. Anyatha means otherwise. And anything otherwise, other than what? Other than jnanam. What is jnanam? These 20 values. Anything other than these 20 values leads to what? Ajnanam, further ignorance. These 20 values lead to enlightenment. Anything else leads to further ignorance, perpetuates ignorance. Obviously, if you lack the preparation, then enlightenment will always remain like the distant horizon. You keep chasing after the horizon, it keeps receding from you. That's the experience of a spiritual aspirant who lacks these qualities in sufficient measure. There's another point here, though, about these qualities are not just, they're not merely preparation for gaining enlightenment. We call them values for a reason. These are values which help you live a good life. Remember, we started amanitvam, absence of pride, adambitvam, absence of pretension, ahimsa, not hurting others, kshantihi, patience, arjavam, straightforwardness. If you lack these values, what kind of life will you live? If you are full of ego and pretension, if you constantly hurt people, if you are impatient and manipulative in what you say and do. You know people like that. What kind of life do they live? Reflect on this. You know someone who, for whatever reason, lacks these values. What kind of life do they live? If you lack these values, you end up living a miserable life. You're constantly in a state of conflict with others. These values, in addition to preparing you for enlightenment, these values allow you to live a conflict-free life. If you want to live a conflict-free life, Sri Krishna here gives us a roadmap. So, at one level, these values give you that conflict-free life, but ultimately, these values prepare you for enlightenment. This is jnanam, knowledge, which prepares you for gaining jneyam, that which is to be known, which was the other part of Arjuna's question, and that's where we turn to next in our text. What is jneyam? Jneyam yattat pravakshyami, jneyam yattat pravakshyami, yajñātvāmritam ashnute, yajñātvāmritam ashnute, anārimat param brahma, anārimat param brahma, na sattanna saruchyate, na sattanna saruchyate. Pravakshyami, I will tell you. I will tell you what? Yat-tat, that which. I will tell you that which is jneyam, that which is to be known. Remember Arjuna's question, what is jnanam? What is jneyam? Jnanam is over, now jneyam, that which is to be known. Yat jñātva, having known which, having gained this jneyam, that which is to be known, amritam ashnute. Ashnute, you will enjoy amritam, immortality, a code word here for enlightenment. So I will now I'll paraphrase, now Arjuna, I will tell you that which is to be known, gaining which knowledge you will become enlightened. And what is that jneyam? What is to be known? Anādimat param brahma. Param brahma. Ultimate reality, which is anādimat, beginningless, eternal, which is nasat, it is not real, na asat, nor is it unreal. Very strange language. It is not sat, it is not asat, uchyate. It is not called being, it is not called non-being. Now these are rather obscure terms. I'll explain them and then I'll give you the bigger view. Here, being in the sense of human being, So human being is a being. Brahman is like a human being? No. Is Brahman then non-being, non-existence, like the elephant in my hand? No. So Brahman is not like the elephant in my hand, non-existent, nor does Brahman exist as a finite being. And this is going to launch us now into a series of verses that explains the nature of Brahman in a really a delightful and brilliant way. But in order for us to understand it, we need to return to a discussion that we had quite extensively when we were studying the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, which talked about the nature of Ishvara. So let's return to our dream metaphor. This metaphor is one of the most, and metaphor means it is a teaching methodology that uses comparison. So here we are comparing, we're using dream to introduce this topic. And remember, some of you are coming newly, so let me try to make this very briefly, give it to you and remind you. You, for your dream world, you are the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer. You create the dream world. That dream world exists within you. And when you wake up, that dream world returns to you. For your dream creation, you are Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Shiva, creator, sustainer, and destroyer for your dream creation. But there's another aspect of you. Another aspect of you not involved in that dream creation at all. With regard to the dream creation, you create it, you sustain it, you destroy it. You are present in and throughout your dream creation. There's no part of your dream world which is separate from you, which is different from you. In fact, everything in your dream world is made of you. A tree that exists in your dream world is not made of wood. What is it made of? Made of you, the dreamer. So as the dreamer, you are not only the creator, sustainer, destroyer of your dream world. By the way, I'm giving you a 2-minute summary of a vast Vedantic teaching that we've seen in great detail in prior classes, which is why I'm taking the liberty of giving it to you in a very small span right now. This topic really deserves a lot of expansion. If what I'm saying to you is unfamiliar, go back and restudy chapters 7 and 9. Then you'll get it all. So, and all of these lectures, of course, are available online, so you can go watch those classes. You need to understand chapters 7 and 9, and then all of this will be very, very clear. So anyway, let's just finish this introduction, and then we'll come to these verses. So for your dream world, not only are you the creator, sustainer, destroyer, but you are the very stuff out of which the dream world exists. The dream world is made of you. The dream tree is not made of wood. It's made of you, which means, figuratively speaking, you exist in the dream tree, right? If the dream tree is not made of wood, if it's made of you, then we can say that you exist in the dream tree, in the dream house, in the dream road. Everything that exists in your dream world is made of you, is pervaded by you. This is how we understand Ishvara. and Ishvara as creator, sustainer, destroyer. Ishvara who pervades the world being a manifestation of Ishvara. Just as your dream world is a manifestation of you, in the same way this creation is a manifestation of Ishvara. With this in mind, let me push a button here. I'll go to the board, push the right button, this one. Thank you. Okay, so our topic is Brahman. I'm talking about Ishvara. What is the relationship? So Ishvara is the word we use, the closest word for God in English. Creator, but notice, our concept of God, we can use the word God for Ishvara, but note that our understanding of God is very different than the biblical understanding of God. Biblical understanding of God, our Father who art in heaven. A God who is remote, a God who is distant, God who's all-powerful, all-knowing, almighty, fine, but who's remote. Notice our concept of God is not a God who's remote, but rather a God from whom the entire universe is non-separate, a God who pervades the universe, a God of whom the universe is a manifestation. Like your dream world is a manifestation of you, the universe is a manifestation of Ishvara. Well, now watch this. Ishvara is a common word. The technical term we might use, however, is Saguna Brahman. Now, Saguna Brahma is a technical term we use in Vedanta. Saguna means having qualities, having attributes, and it's to distinguish Nirguna Brahman. Nirguna Brahma means a Brahman. Brahman is absolute reality. Here, nirguna, without qualities, without traits, without attributes. Being the creator is an attribute. To create the world is an attribute. Nirguna Brahman doesn't have the attribute of being the creator. Saguna Brahman has that attribute of being the creator. Sustainer, destroyer are attributes. Nirguna Brahman does not have the attributes of being a sustainer or destroyer. Saguna Brahman does have those attributes. To pervade the world, pervasion is an attribute. Nirguna Brahman doesn't have the attribute of pervasion. Saguna Brahman is the God who pervades the universe. To be the stuff out of which the universe is woven. We say that Ishvara is the underlying reality or stuff out of which the world is woven, that to be that underlying reality is an attribute which belongs to Saguna Brahman and not to Nirguna Brahman. Then what is Nirguna Brahman? Take away all the attributes. Excuse me. If you take away all the attributes, what's left is pure reality. And here's it's not as complicated as it might seem. You exist because of an underlying reality. An underlying reality that because of which you exist as a conscious being. You are existent, you are conscious. Pure existence, pure consciousness. These are not attributes, these are fundamental realities. So there is an underlying reality because of which you exist, It is pure existence. It is unconditioned consciousness. Unconditioned means having no qualities. Just as you exist because of an underlying reality, Ishvara exists because of an underlying reality. You can follow that? It's not that complicated. Just as you exist because of an underlying reality, Ishvara also exists because of an underlying reality, which is to say, Ishvara exists because of the underlying reality, which is Nirguna Brahman. Now you understand these terms. Nirguna Brahman is the underlying reality because of which Ishvara exists as a creator, sustainer, destroyer. Now, before we return to the text, I want to make a connection to two philosophical terms used in Western philosophy that are really helpful, and especially in the context of our dream metaphor. And that is when we talk about two kinds of reality. Here we're using terms saguna, reality. Brahman is reality. Reality with gunas, reality without gunas. So here, why don't we just add these words, immanent and transcendent. These terms I find very helpful, and I just don't want to stand in front of that. There we go. These terms are very helpful. They're used frequently in Western philosophy, and they're pretty much the equivalent of saguna and nirguna Brahman. What they mean, immanent means here, now. Ishvara is here, now. Go back to the dream metaphor. Where are you, the dreamer, with regard to your dream world? Everywhere. Here, now. You are in the dream tree, you are in the dream car. Everything in the dream world is a manifestation of you. With regard to your dream creation, you, the dreamer, are immanent as the creator, sustainer, destroyer of that dream. That represents Saguna Brahman. Transcendent means literally beyond, absolutely beyond. So Nirguna Brahman is beyond in the sense that it's utterly different than Saguna Brahman, being completely without any qualities whatsoever. And here's where the dream metaphor offers some important help. And that is, we can distinguish between you, the dreamer, the creator, sustainer, destroyer of the dream world. But what about you laying in your bed? Yeah, in New Jersey. You, the one who's laying in his or her bed, someplace in New Jersey, actually for all of our online viewers, someplace all over the world, wherever you happen to live, there are two different perspectives of you. So you, the one who's going to get up in the morning when the alarm clock goes off, brush your teeth, have a cup of tea, and go off to work, what is the relationship between that you and the dream world? What do you mean relationship? They're utterly separate. From the standpoint of your dream world, we could say that you, laying in your bed, waiting for your alarm clock to go off so you can brush your teeth, have your tea, and go off to work, that you is utterly transcendent with regard to your dream world. Get it? From the standpoint of your dream world, your waking life, the waking you, with regard to your dream world, the waking you is utterly transcendent, utterly beyond, utterly unknowable. In your dream world, what could the characters in your dream world know about you, the one who is going to go off to work in the morning? There's a complete disconnect there. So we can say that with regard to your dream world, you, the dreamer, are immanent. But you, with regard to the dream world, the waking you is transcendent, utterly beyond. This metaphor will help us understand this next sequence of verses. Okay, let's come back here. So, the second half of this verse is clearly talking about that transcendent aspect, nirguna Brahman. Notice the very term nirguna is a negating term. Doesn't tell what Brahman is, tells what Brahman is not. And it turns out the only way we can really understand nirguna Brahman is with these negating words. Look here, anadimat, having no beginning, is a negative word. Nasat, not a finite being. Na asat, not non-existent. These are negating words. So here we have some words of negation used to describe Param Brahma. And here Param, actually Param sounds positive, but it kind of has a negative meaning. Param, supreme. Supreme means not here. Something which is beyond. By the way, Param comes very close to that Western term transcendent. Literally, it means that which is beyond, that which is supreme. Now we can move ahead, because having understood these two aspects of Brahman, Sri Krishna in this next series of verses is going to describe both. That which is Gneyam is both Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. Notice he starts here with Nirguna Brahman. Let's look at the next verse. In the next verse, Sarvata Paniparam Tata, Sarvata Paniparam Tata, Sarvatokshishiro Mukham, Sarvatokshishiro Mukham, Sarvata Shuti Maloke, Sarvata Shuti Maloke, Sarvamavritya Tishtati, Sarvamavritya Tishtati. Doesn't sound like Nirguna Brahman. We said to understand Nirguna Brahman, you'd have to say what it's not. But notice here are all positive expressions. So the end of the prior verse, Sri Krishna described Nirguna Brahman. With this verse, he's describing Saguna Brahman. And how does he describe it? He describes it as tat, end of the first line, that which is pani param, that which has pani, hands, padam, feet, sarvataha, everywhere. That which has hands and feet everywhere. Now this is poetry. So we have to understand the poetic sense here. Having hands and feet everywhere, we find that actually that very statement elsewhere in scriptures, means what? All hands are manifestations of whom? There you have it. All feet are manifestations of Ishvara. All hands are Ishvara, all feet are Ishvara in that sense. And Ishvara meaning Saguna Brahman. In that sense, that which is Gneyam, to be known, is Sarvata Paniparam Tat, that which has hands and feet everywhere, as Ishvara, as Saguna Brahman. Also Sarvataha, everywhere. Everywhere, Ishvara has Akshi, eyes, Shiras, head, and Mukha, face. Everywhere. Which means all eyes are Ishvara's eyes, all heads are Ishvara's heads, all faces are Ishvara's face. This is the idea. Here we're talking about that immanent Ishvara, the Ishvara who is present here now manifest as you and me and everything that exists. Also that Ishvara is sarvata everywhere, loke, in the world, has shruti mat. Shruti is ears. So all ears are Ishvara's ears. Finally, sarvam avritya, pervading everything, that Ishvara tishtati, remains. That Ishvara remains present here, now, pervading everything. And just to make sure that we understand this sense of pervading, watch this. This pot is pervaded by clay. That's an interesting use of the word pervaded. There's a very Vedantic use of the word pervaded. Just like this pot is pervaded by clay, the universe is pervaded by Ishvara. This is how we understand. This is what we mean by pervasion. Well, so this pot is pervaded by clay because clay is the reality because of which the pot exists. In the same way, the universe is pervaded by Ishvara because Ishvara gives existence to the universe as creator, sustainer, destroyer. Now, Sri Krishna is being very clever here. In a prior verse, we got a little introduction to Nirguna Brahman. In this verse, we got an introduction to Saguna Brahman. Now you can see why we did the introduction. So this introduction is important because having first described what is Nirguna Brahman, then describe what is Saguna Brahman, in the coming verses, Sri Krishna is going to intermix the two. and if we're not clear, we're going to be the one who gets mixed. We're going to get confused if we're not clear about what is what. Let's go ahead and see, and you'll understand clearly. Sarvendriya guna bhasam, sarvendriya guna bhasam, sarvendriya vivarjitam, sarvendriya vivarjitam, asaktam sarvabhrachaiva, asaktam sarvabhrachaiva, nirgunam guna bhoktracha, nirgunam guna bhoktracha. So first, he says that, remember, what is our discussion? Brahman. Which Brahman? This is the tricky part, watch. Are we talking about Saguna Brahman or Nirguna Brahman? Is Sri Krishna describing Saguna Brahman or Nirguna Brahman? Well, he started with Nirguna Brahman, then he went to Saguna Brahman, so the answer is both. What is Jnayam, what is to be known, is both Saguna Brahman, Ishvara, and Nirguna Brahman. And in this verse, he switches back and forth very subtly. Watch this. Sarvendriya guna abhasam. That which is abhasam, an appearance in the form of gunas, in the forms of qualities, which are perceived by sarva indriya, all of our senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Everything, this is what I'm smiling because I love this kind of teaching. Watch. Somebody says, how do I see Ishvara? And the answer, of course, is everything you see is Ishvara. You're like, how can I see clay? You're already seeing clay. It's already there. How do I see Ishvara? Everything you see is Ishvara. Everything you hear is Ishvara. Everything you taste or smell or touch is Ishvara. There's only Ishvara. So sarvendriya guna abhasam. Whatever appears to your senses is Ishvara, Saguna Brahman. at the same time, sarvendriya vivarjitam. That which is vivarjitam without indriya, sarvendriya, without senses. That which is without senses, that which is beyond the senses. Look what he's doing here. So the first quarter is talking about Saguna Brahman, that which appears to our senses. Everything you see is Ishvara. And in the very next quarter, he says, it is that which is beyond the senses, transcendent. So that which appears to your senses, immanent. That which is beyond the senses, transcendent. Both. And here's a challenge. Let me make a little broader comment here. The understanding of the ancient rishis with regard to Ishvara and Brahman, with regard to Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, is extremely profound and a little deep in a philosophical way. It's not so simple. Compare this to the biblical concept of God, our Father who art in heaven. There is an all-powerful, almighty being out there someplace who creates a world. It's a more simple theology. I would say that the theology of the Bible is quite simple. There is an all-powerful, almighty God out there someplace. He created the world, and that's it. Very simple, straightforward theology. Here, we have a theology that's much more subtle. Really demands that you have to, there's something to be understood here. In fact, we could say that biblical theology is based primarily on faith. When biblical theology says that there is an all-powerful, almighty God out there someplace, that becomes a matter of faith, blind faith, of something to be accepted. Notice the presentation here is radically different. Sri Krishna is not describing something which is a matter of faith, but rather something which is a matter of understanding. So we could say then that this tradition demands that you understand who and what is Ishvara, Saguna Brahman, and Nirguna Brahman, the reality because of which Ishvara exists. This is a matter to be understood, and it's not very simple. It's subtle and requires some effort on our part to understand. And just a personal comment, to me, this approach to theology is absolutely crucial. Just to a personal anecdote. When I first came to these teachings, as I first met Puja Swami Dayananda in 1981, and I was exposed to Vedanta through Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Mission some years before that, in the late 70s. And back in that time, I was raised, of course, in a Christian family, but I was completely turned off by the religion of my childhood because it was so based on blind faith. And it didn't work for me. It works for many. And for those for whom it works, good, wonderful. If blind faith can sustain your religious and spiritual life, no problem. Didn't work for me. So I was then left without any kind of religious or spiritual tradition at all until I came to these teachings of Vedanta. And what I found so radical and so powerful and so helpful is it presented Ishvara not as a matter of blind faith, but as a reality to be understood. That's unique. That's unique to this Hindu tradition. I shouldn't say Hindu tradition. It's unique to this Vedantic tradition. Of course, in Hinduism, there's plenty of traditions based on blind faith. Absolutely true. Plenty of Hindu scriptures which present Ishvara as a matter of blind faith. Fact. But here, in the teachings of Vedanta, as taught here in the Bhagavad Gita by Sri Krishna, is Sri Krishna telling Arjuna what to believe or what to understand? Clear. And similarly, is the Bhagavad Gita telling us what to believe or telling us what is to be understood? So this is such an important distinction from conventional religiosity based on blind faith to these teachings of Vedanta, which are focused on spiritual knowledge, wisdom. So here, let's come back to our verse. So in the first quarter, that which appears to your five senses, saguna Brahman. Everything you see, hear, taste, smell, touch, a manifestation of Ishvara. And then in the very next line, he flips it over and says, also that same Brahman is sarva indriya vivarjitam, without the senses, beyond the senses. From the standpoint of saguna Brahman, present to your senses. From the standpoint of nirguna Brahman, beyond the senses. So this contrast goes on. And it goes on throughout this verse. Then he says, that which is asaktam and sarvabhritcha eva. So sarvabhrit, that which sustains the universe. Saguna Brahman, that which sustains the universe, sarvabhrit, and that which is asaktam, remote, detached. That's the opposite. So that which is sarvabhrit, like you sustain all your dream creation, but asaktam, you are also the one who's going to get up in the morning and go to work at a completely different level. That's what he's describing here. Sarvabhrit, saguna Brahman, Ishvara, who sustains the universe, and at the same time, asaktam, unattached, unconnected, unrelated, non-relational. These are words that you'll find in philosophy books. Non-relational reality. Nirguna Brahman is a non-relational reality. You can't have a relationship with Nirguna Brahman because relationship is a guna. Right? Relationship is a quality. Nirguna, having no qualities, having no relationships, an unrelatable reality. And he continues this. Sri Krishna says, Guna Bhoktra, the experiencer of gunas, means whatever you see, hear, taste, smell, and touch. Ishvara is the reality within you, experiencing everything your eyes and ears pick up. So that Saguna Brahman here is called Guna Bhoktra, the one who experiences the world through our bodies and minds, and at the same time, Nirgunam, free from gunas, beyond the gunas. So this is a rhetorical device. In fact, some would call this irony. Irony means to show something that's strangely opposite. And what is strangely opposite here is that Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman are two aspects of one reality. From the standpoint of being creator, sustainer, destroyer, Saguna Brahman. From the standpoint of being pure existence, pure consciousness, Nirguna Brahman. And this is where it's not so simple, as in biblical theology, or even the theology we find in the Puranas, the Hindu scriptures known as Puranas, Bhagavata Purana, etc., also based on blind faith. This is so much more sophisticated. Let's see one more verse. Bahirantascha bhutanam, bahirantascha bhutanam, acharam charam eva cha, acharam charam eva cha, sukshmatvatara vigneyam, tratvatara vigneyam, durastham chanti ke chatata, durastham chanti ke chatata. So the one who is bahihi, outside, and antaha, within, bhutanam, all beings. The one who dwells within and the one who exists outside of all beings, beings who are charam and acharam, beings that are acharam, non-living, stable things, and charam, the beings that can move, living beings. Inside and outside of all beings. We can take this in several ways. How about we take it like this? With regard to your dream world, the you laying in your bed, you're really outside. You're completely outside the dream world. You transcend the dream world. At the same time, you are in the dream world, not the one who's going to get up and go to work, but you dreaming. You, the dreamer, are antaha, inside the dream world. Inside everything in the dream world which is charam, living, or acharam, not living. So the people inside your dream world are manifestations of you. The inanimate things in your dream world, like the tree and car, are manifestations of you. So here we see that irony or contrast one more time. With regard to your dream world, you are bahihi, outside, and antaha, inside. You are transcendent, laying in your bed. You are immanent as a creator, sustainer, destroyer of your dream world. In the same way, we understand Brahman in this twofold way. We understand Brahman as nirguna Brahman, that which is utterly transcendent, and we understand Brahman as immanent, as saguna Brahman, creator, sustainer, destroyer. Then, also picking this same idea in the last line, durastham, that which is far away. Far away. How far away are you, the one who gets up in the morning? How far away are you compared to your dream world? That's an infinite distance, different levels of reality, complete separation. You are transcendent. And with that in mind, sukshmatvat tat avigneyam. Tat, that, and we're talking about nirguna Brahman, that nirguna Brahman is anirvigneyam. Vigneyam. Gneyam, to be known, vigneyam, to be known as such. A little play on language here. That which you can know how big it is, how small it is, what color it is. So what color and shape is nirguna Brahman? By definition, nirguna Brahman has no color and shape. How about this? Somebody in your dream world, can they explain what you do for a living? They can't describe. They have no access. Because you, the one who goes off to work in the morning, you are transcendent with regard to that dream world. So you are indescribable from the standpoint of your dream world creation. And here, tada vignyayam, Nirguna Brahman cannot be described as being such and such. Why? Sukshmatvat, because it is subtle, and here the subtlety means having no qualities, having no attributes. That which has color and shape you can describe. That which has no color, no shape, no attributes whatsoever, by definition, is indescribable. And that's what it says here, tada vignyayam. It is indescribable. At the same time, and here we come back to the irony, and we'll end on this point, cha antike, cha tat. Cha and also tat, that reality is antike. Look at the words side by side. It is durastam, it is far away, yet it is antike, it is inside. It is far away and it is simultaneously inside. You can see how Sri Krishna is playing with these words. He's having a good time. And hopefully Arjuna was having a good time, and I'm hoping we're having a good time, because this is really delightful to use these pairs of words to show the contrast between the transcendent and the immanent, the contrast between Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. So when Sri Krishna says Durastam, transcendent Nirguna Brahman, then he switches and he says Antike, that which is within, immanent Saguna Brahman. So before we conclude, just come back to what we said before. This is not intended to be some dry philosophical discourse. The goal here is to understand who and what is the reality because of which everything exists, and to fully use our minds and intellects to appreciate that lofty truth. It's not being given, we're not being spoon-fed here, as many, we're going to say many scriptures will spoon-feed you with very simple matters of belief. Here we're not being spoon-fed. Here you're being demanded to understand a very lofty truth. Okay, that's a good place to conclude today. Some closing announcements. First of all, to wish all of you a very happy Deepavali. The date is actually Monday, but many of you will be celebrating starting tomorrow. Also to announce a change of our schedules. We are going to try shifting our Vedanta class, which has been meeting on Tuesday nights. We're going to try moving it to Sunday at 11 o'clock. So this class meets at Saturday at 11. So Sundays at 11, we'll try having our Vedanta class. And the reason we're shifting it is that I think some people have a hard time after work coming for a class. Some people have a hard time driving at night when it's dark, and of course with winter then it gets cold and a little difficult. And so hopefully this will make it easier for more of you to attend that Vedanta class. It's a wonderful class. We're taking this text of Sri Shankara, a text called Upadesha Sahasri, and it really shows off Shankara's, just his brilliance. You'll understand very quickly why he is such a central figure in Advaita Vedanta. Every verse is just brilliant. We're enjoying it. So please come and join us. So instead of coming on Tuesday nights at 7:30, please come Sundays at 11. And by the way, immediately after that class, then we'll have satsang. We'll have a question-answer session. So 11 o'clock will be Vedanta class, followed by satsang at noon. A brief satsang. Important to note, it will not start this Sunday. This Sunday is tomorrow. Where am I? So, and the reason for that is many of you will be actually celebrating this Dhanteras part of Deepavali. So this change will take place a week from Sunday. So there will not be a class this coming Tuesday night. There will not be a class tomorrow. But starting next Sunday, we'll start this our Vedanta class. And I'll remind you in next week's class. So please come and join us. And we'll conclude our program with our brief prayers at the altar. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Avamahe Kaving Gavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspataha Nashranvan Uttavasira Saranam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschad Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.